How's it going? Today we're going to be tying a Cascade. In the vise I've got a size 10 silver Vineyard Osprey hook, and the thread I'll be using is Unithread 80 in white. Some catch on just behind the eye, and lay a nice base of thread and touch and turns. Just down to between somewhere between the point and the barb. There we go. Trim off our excess thread, and for the tag we're going to be using some silver oval and small. So we catch that in, taking the tag end of that to about halfway up our body, 3 or 4 turns, a thread to catch it in, and then you take 3 or 4 turns down the shank with your silver oval, roughly to where the hooks start to splay, and then you bring it round between the hooks and over the top to where you catch it in. Trim off the excess. And for the tail I'm going to be using a mixture of orange and yellow squirrel fox. So you trim off a small bunch of each of the fibres. Just a mixture of about 50-50 of each, and then between your thumb and forefinger roll them around a bit to mix them up. Do that for a while, and then split them one on top of the other, roll it around, split it one on top of the other. So that gives us some reasonably well mixed fibres. The only thing is some of them are long, some of them are short. So we take our hair stagger and drop them into the stagger. Half a dozen or so taps, and that gives us our ends all pretty straight. So we pull them out and hold them by the tip, and just stroke out any broken fibres, anything loose. Again, turn it around, measure up for the length that you want for your tail, and do it the other way as well, just to make sure there's no loose fibres on it. Still a wee bit heavy for the tail I think, so we'll just pinch out a few more fibres. I like my flies reasonably sparse. Anything just sort of that doesn't please you, pinch it out, and we'll go for tail length of about 1.5 times the shank. Catch your fibres in with a pinching loop, and a few more turns to tighten it in. Trim off any excess. Tidy all that up, and back down your shank. So I'm going to add a little bit of flash into this fly. And for that I have some silver crystal flash. So we take one end, measure up to the length of the tail, a couple of loose turns, and the same again with the other side. Just 2 or 3 loose turns. Trim the excess off, and you can tighten it all in. For a rib, we're going to be using our silver oval again, the same as the tag. So you want to catch that in. Three or 4 tight turns. And for the rear of our body, we're going to be using holographic silver. Just trim a wee bevel into the end, catch it in, and then nice tight turns to about halfway up the shank. We take our silver tinsel, nice tight overlapping turns just to make sure there's no thread showing through the body. We take it to about halfway, maybe slightly more than halfway up the shank. Catch it in. Half a dozen or so turns of thread. Trim off our excess nice and tight. A few more turns to bind it down. And for the front half of the body, we're going to be using some black floss. This is just Unifloss. Trim off a few inches. Catch it in. And just take your wraps back until you've got the body roughly where you want the start of it. So you're going for about halfway down the hook shank, and bring your thread back up to about 3 mil behind the eye. So with our floss, nice tight touch and turns, working our way up to the eye. You want to make sure that there's no white thread showing through. So once you get to about 4 or 5 mil away from your eye, catch your thread in, trim off your excess. There we go. Now we want to bring our rib up. So nice open turns, trying to get them as even as possible, working your way up your body. Once you get to the end of your black body, 2 or 3 turns over. Trim off your rib. So for the wing of the fly, originally it was black squirrel, but I like using this fox shadow pelt. This stuff I picked up in the Scottish Fly Fair from Sean Stanton at Frankensnelde. It's really nice to use. It's soft. You still get a few guard hairs in it as well. Main reason I like using it is it ties down in fairly tight and wouldn't slip as much as squirrel tail. So I like to pull out the guard hairs and then just lie them in again on the top of the fur. Just line your fibres up. They don't have to be perfect, just somewhere near. And then the length of your wing, really it's down to personal preference. I know some boys don't like them much further than the body, and I've seen people that like them bleeding halfway down into the tail. I kind of like them somewhere in between. So usually to about the bend of the hook. Two or three loose turns over the top. Just make sure everything's sitting the way you want it. And we're going to add some flash into our wing as well. So just the same as we did with the tail, we take our silver crystal flash, a turn or two on one side to secure it or catch it in. A turn or two on the other. Just make sure they're sitting right. They're both reasonably level. And then a few turns to tighten it all in. Trim off your excess. And then use your thread just to tidy it all up. A couple of wee black fibres there poking forward. I wouldn't worry too much about them. Pull them back, get a couple of turns over them. They should come back into place. Now for our first hackle, we're going to be using a yellow cock hackle. Strip off the excess at the back, and we're going to double this over. So peel your fibres back, and take the stock on your hackle pliers. So holding the hackle pliers in one hand and your tip in the other, just gently tease your fibres back. Sometimes it can take a wee bit of work just to get them sitting back. There we go, that's not too bad. And catch it in. So we want 2 or 3 nice tight touching turns. Just really depends on either how dense the hackle is or how heavily dressed you want your fly. Bigger sort of flies, I like 3 turns, but the smaller stuff, usually you're fishing in low water, so you want them to be quite sparse. Trim it off. Any of your fibres that are poking forward, just tease them back, get a couple of turns of thread in front of them. And for our front hackle, we're going to be using an orange cock. So just the same as before, we're doubling this over. Catch it in our hackle pliers. And just teasing the fibres back. Right, so the ones towards the tip are quite short. See, the ones at the very tip are broken. So we'll just come back the tip a little bit into some of the wider fibres. Catch it in. Trim off her tip. The same as before. 2 to 3 turns. One. 2. There's about 2.5. I'll catch it in on the underside. So just give your thread a bit of a wiggle to get it in between the hackle fibres. Make sure it's caught in. Trim your stalk off, pull everything out. Now again, there's half a dozen fibres or so sticking out just in front of the eye. Pull them back with your fingers. Pull everything back. And a couple more turns of thread. Now we're going to finish this fly off with a red head. And I prefer to use thread rather than the varnish. The varnish can be a wee bit messy sometimes and bleed up into your hackle fibres. So just whip off with your white thread. Four or 5 turns. Catch on with your red. Now just proceed to build your head up. Once you've got all your white thread covered, just, oh, there's a wee bit there I can't see on the underside. It's always good to have a rotary vise. You can just rotate the hook the whole way around, see every 360 degrees the whole way around it. Whip finish off, half a dozen or so turns. There's one fibre that just came forward there. Whether it wants to sit back or not. Now we're ready for 2 or 3 coats of varnish. And here we have a Cascade, a fly that's world renowned for catching salmon and will work just about any river and any time of the year.